Here we are with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink, and we have to discuss what's going on and what has been on at the Roland Garros, where now we are at the semifinals, women and men. Let's start with the ladies. Ladies first. Steve, what are you surprised about who do we find? Because apart from Kennen, Swiatek, as must be pronounced, I was told by a Polish colleague, and Podoroska, well, nobody expected them to be there.
No, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the other one first, Kvitova versus Kenin.
Yeah.
That's nice because two-time Wimbledon champion against Kenin, who won the Australian champions. It's the battle of players who have won majors, which is nice. And with the great story with Kenin is to win 6-love in the third today over Danielle Collins. Good effort, because nobody thought coming into the tournament, Ubaldo, at least most people believed, I don't know whether you felt that way, that she might not do very well. She hasn't played that well lately. And so it's a big, it's a nice achievement for her to get to the Final Four like this.
Yes, you're right. I just underlined that she lost 4 sets, but she has lost only 44 games, because most of the time she won the third set either 6-0 or 6-1 or you know, or easy, or 6-2. I mean, so at the end.
Ubaldo,
Yeah.
I just interrupt for a second. You sure your name is not Reno Tomasi?
No,
It sounded like Reno with all those stats. I loved it. I love those stats.
No,
Go ahead.
no. Well, you know, I was because I checked Kvitova, and I saw that she has lost 0 set, but losing 0 sets, she has lost 34 games. While Kenin, who has lost 4 sets, she lost only 10 games more. So, but at the end, it always comes as a winner at the end of the match.
Yeah, absolutely. And to win so decisively without, in the third set today against Danielle Collins and sweep it that way. That sometimes feels as good almost as winning in straight sets. I think she's pretty confident, and she's come into good form, and yet I think she's going to be, I don't know how you feel, again, you tell me, but I feel she's a little bit at Kvitova's mercy. And if Kvitova is at her best, she will hit too many winners. She'll use her left-handed serve to open up the court. Her forehand will be devastating. If she's near 100%, I like Kvitova. If Kvitova is maybe only 80 to 85%, Kenin all the way in my book. What about you?
Well, with Kvitova, I never know the way she's going to perform.
Right.
Because this tournament, I mean, she was again in the quarters of final, and she had tears on her eyes, because it was 8 years that she hadn't done so well at Roland Garros. So probably she first didn't even think that she could, add these results. So now, once you get to the semifinal, and with a young, more inexperienced girl, even if Kenin, as you mentioned, has won the Australian Open, well, I mean, Kvitova may think, oh, this is a good opportunity. Who knows how many we have in the future.
I think I totally agree with that. She will feel like the match is in her hands, but she has to play really well to do it. She can't. I think she has to play maybe a little better than she even has so far in the tournament, which has been excellent. So, now she's playing a player. This is by far the best player that she will have come up against, and vice versa. It's true for both of them. I'm looking forward to that. I think it could be some very high quality tennis, Ubaldo.
Yeah, I must tell you that I was very surprised when I saw that in Rome, at the Italian Open, Kenin lost 6-love to Azarenka. So I don't know if she was maybe ill, injured. With the women, you never know. They could be in a difficult time of their cycles or whatever, and you never know what can happen.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was but that's what I mean, to come away from a performance like that, inexplicable to lose love and love to Azarenka, but to be playing this well now shows that she recovered psychologically, and she's feeling better about her game. And now that she's in the semifinals and she's already won a major before, that's the great thing about both of them. Kvitova's won 2 Wimbledon. She knows what she's doing. She's a great veteran. She's very talented. And Kenin, having come off the Australian Open win, they both have reasons to believe in their chances. That's what I like about the match. But I guess I would give a slight edge to Kvitova.
Okay. Well, I think that for some people, it will be like a sort of anticipated final because both whoever wins, Kvitova or Kenin, they have more experience, more better ranking, and all that. But to be honest, when I saw Swiatek playing against Alep, she lost only 3 games, and then she lost 4 games with our girl Trevisan, I was pretty impressed. So this girl who won the Wimbledon Junior 2 years ago, and the last year was already in the last 16 at Roland Garros, being so young, she is dangerous.
Very dangerous. I kind of expect to see her in the final, and it wouldn't shock me if she won it, but I certainly expect her to win the semifinal based on what she's shown us so far. And as you just mentioned, she's come off 2 very impressive performances, and to beat Halep as badly as she did, Ubaldo, and then follow it up with another clear-cut win shows you how well she's playing right now.
Yeah, and then, you know, it's quite funny that she's called Iga and she's Polish, and Radwanska was called Aga. So they have Iga, and Aga is like a cartoon.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's it. You say tomato and I say tomato. It's one of those, right?
Correct. Correct. Listen, so let's see. Even if if we talk about Swiatek, who is for sure a great prospect. Really, nobody knew Podoroska. The other day, when Svitolina came out of her match, winning match versus Garcia, she said, "I've never heard of this girl. I have no idea who she is." And then she lost 6-2, 6-4 by Podoroska, who lives in Spain and in Alicante. And the father is Ukrainian, and so she beats Svitolina, who happens to be Ukrainian too, so she is number 131 in the world, but she was pretty convincing, beating Svitolina, and before Krejcikova, and before Pironkova, not Pironkova, Schmidlova, who had won versus Azarenka. So, I mean, I don't know her well enough to say, oh, can she win or not versus Swiatek. But
well, to be fair, I don't either. But I just give the Polish girl the edge my gut tells me the Polish girl will win that semifinal. But it'll be interesting. It's a big moment for both of them, Ubaldo, just to be in the semifinals of a major like that. They certainly were not expecting it coming into the tournament. To suddenly find themselves in a position to be in the final at Roland Garros must be a little bit surprising for them, even for them.
Yeah, well, Swiatek, I'll give you some other Rino Tomasi data. She lost 0 sets, and she lost only 20 games. I mean, in five matches, so 10 sets. She lost 20 games, which means an average of 2 per each set.
Which is pretty
almost like Nadal.
Yeah, it is. It is Nadal-like, and I think that the semifinal, though, even though they both are coming in great form, the scores are going to be somewhat tight. The sets, I think, are going to be pretty close. That's my guess. You know, but I just give the Polish girl the edge I'm just more impressed with what she's done to get there. That's my, because let's face it, Ubaldo, everybody, I was in the camp that thought Halep was going to win this tournament.
Yeah, me too.
So to beat her that soundly, and I think Halep felt that she didn't play that badly, which tells you even more about how good this girl is.
Yeah, Halep had won Rome.
Yes,
won the Italian Open. Anyway, I think that's all for the women singles. And I just interrupt you a second, and then we will start talking about the men's draw. Here we are again with Steve Flink, my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer. We have to discuss what's going on in the men's tournament. We have two semifinals, Schwartzman versus Nadal and Djokovic versus Tsitsipas. So not, I would say, not an incredible upset, even if somebody could have waited Thiem to be there since Thiem won the US Open. But more or less, I mean, you know, Schwartzman had beaten Rafa Nadal in Rome, and this maybe these courts had the heavy balls, maybe they favor him a little bit.
I think so. And it was a great win for Schwartzman, the 5-setter over Thiem, so hard fought. And he, of course, had won the first set in a tiebreak, and then he squandered a lot of opportunities in the next 2 sets that he probably should have won, had set point in the third set, had 2 points away in the second set, and still came back, won it in 5. That's a big win for him. And it gives him the chance to see if he can repeat that win over Rafa in Rome, which was a pretty straightforward 2-5. I mean, he beat him pretty confidently that day in Rome. First time ever in 10 meetings that he'd beaten Rafa. So I think that's a very interesting semi, Ubaldo, because of the reasons you just said. The balls are heavy. The conditions are more in Schwartzman's favor than Rafa. And yet Rafa, despite not liking the balls and being so concerned about everything coming into the tournament, to me, he looks like the normal Rafa. I think he's played great the whole tournament. Hasn't lost a set. He dealt with a very fine young player from, I believe, Italy.
I think you're right. I'd like to talk about him with you in a minute. Just saying also that you mentioned that Schwartzman had lost 10 times in a row to Nadal before beating him. Not only, he had lost 24 times against top 10 players until finally beat Nadal. So, and now he's beaten also Dominic Thiem. So there are already 2 in 25 head-to-head with the top 10. And again, you know, I don't know. He has time to recover because he played his marathon versus Thiem on Tuesday, and he will not have to play before Friday. But still, it was a big effort.
But yeah, it was. It was 5 hours and 8 minutes. That's a long time, and grueling points often in the win. But you know, Ubaldo, the 2 days will help. He had nothing difficult before the team match. If he'd had more than one match like that, I think he's going to recover fine. He strikes me as the kind of guy that can do that. What will be interesting, does he in his mind believe that he can beat Nadal again in best of 5 at Roland Garros versus best of 3 in Rome? I mean, if he hadn't have won in Rome, I think he would have gone into this match with a very negative attitude. But having finally beaten Rafa, I think he's going to put up a pretty good fight in that match. But my guess is that Nadal will have even more respect for Schwartzman. He always respects his opponents, but when somebody's beaten him on clay like that, he takes note, and I think he will reflect on what went wrong in Rome and win the match. But I think it will be 4 sets for Nadal this time. 4.
Yeah, well, you know, Nadal had not been playing when he came to Rome since almost 6 months. He didn't even practice, he didn't play exhibitions, so he couldn't be at his best. And it wasn't at his best, even if before playing with versus Schwartzman, he had won quite easily his first 2 rounds. But
I agree. Ubaldo, those are good points. But now, the problem for Schwartzman is now Rafa comes in here having played 5 more matches on his favorite court and playing well, and he looks like he's now it doesn't look like he's been gone 6 months anywhere. Now he really looks to me to be pretty close to his best, and that's not good news for Schwartzman.
Well, not really good for him. Anyway, did you watch the match that Nadal played?
Ubaldo, let me interrupt you just a second. So you didn't give me your feeling. I'm saying Nadal in 4. Do you agree, or do you see a straight set for Nadal?
I do agree because I saw Nadal much better even yesterday versus Sinner. He didn't start too well. He could have lost the first set. He also said that he had been a bit lucky because Sinner was serving for the set, and he didn't play well on 6-5. But before that, Sinner was commanding. He had initiative. He was, he was making Rafa running from one place to another. And honestly, it was a bit unexpected because, to dominate in terms of game play, Nadal on clay is very, very difficult. Just consider that in 5 games or 5 service games, Sinner had lost only 5 points. While
oh no, he was amazing. You're right. I saw
yeah.
it. I was very impressed, and I agree. He got a little tight at 6-5. Plus, from deuce, Nadal hit a couple of beautiful forehand down the line shots that really and jumped up in the air when he got the break to get into the tiebreak. But I think, Ubaldo, that you're a fortunate man because I think Mr. Sinner is going to keep you very busy. Is going to keep you young and keep you busy.
I wish.
Because I think we're looking at somebody who's going to be at this time next year in the top 10 in the world. There's no doubt in my mind about that. No doubt.
Yeah,
I think he's that good. Top 10, and then the year after, he's going to be maybe a contender for major titles. I think he's that gifted and he's determined. And I don't think the win over Zverev was a fluke. I know Zverev felt sick, but even so, Sinner is what we say. He is for real. He's for real.
Yeah, I do agree, and I hope you're right, because actually I don't remember any 19 years old player playing with such maturity and power and continuity, because he was really.
Well, you know what? We have to go back, Ubaldo, to people like Mats Wilander. Obviously, Pete Sampras at 19 winning the U.S. Open, and Mats winning the French so young, and Chang, and then obviously Becker at Wimbledon at 17. They were all very mature, but we have not really seen it. And Roger was great at 19, but I don't know if he was that much better at 19 than Sinner is.
Yeah, oh yeah, and then those were different times because you could win because of great touch, artist, and while nowadays a 19 years old needs also to have muscles, to be strong physically, mentally, and and playing with these rackets, which you have to serve 200 and I don't know many miles, but I mean a lot. 120.
Yeah, no, right. It's a different. You're right. The whole climate, the game is different. But I just am very impressed with Sinner's demeanor, with his composure and his game. And I thought like he went out there with a totally right attitude. He didn't look in awe of Nadal. And I feel like he'll learn from that match. He was even up a break in the second set, went up 3-1 in the second set, even after the disappointment of the first set. So I really like his future a lot, Ubaldo. I think it's going to be great for Italian tennis.
Yeah. And then, also when they were 4-all, he was a little bit unlucky because he went up 40-15 and Nadal hit a net cord very important, in a very important moment. And then Sinner lost his serve. And then when he lost the second set in the third, he went away from the match because he lost twice his serve. But
that shot, you're so right. I remember watching that at that moment and thinking, oh my God, the poor guy. It's hard enough to beat Nadal, but when he hits a dead winner off the net cord, just crawled over, fell over the net, no chance.
Yeah.
And that was good fortune for Rafa, and not that he necessarily needed it, but it was a tough break, very tough break for Sinner, who was still playing very well.
Then I remember, it's a completely different kind of game, but I remember when in 1977, John McEnroe came out of the qualis and went to the semifinals in Wimbledon. And this guy is playing his first Roland Garros, and he gets to the quarters of finals. First since Novak Djokovic, and younger, let's say, since also Rafa Nadal, who afterwards in 2005 went on to win the tournament. But anyway, so there are many different signs that he beats 3 top 10 already: Tsitsipas, Goffin, and Zverev, and he seems also so wise, because I spoke with him and he said, I know that I have to improve a lot. When I ask, what do you want more to improve? And he say everything, and Piatti, his coach, who has been with Djokovic, with Ljubicic, with Gasquet and Raonic, says that all the other players didn't like too much to practice. They wanted just to compete. While apparently Sinner, and this is a great quality, loves to practice and to study what he can do better. So there is margins for him to get better and better.
Yeah, no, that's what you want to hear a young player like him saying. That's just the kind of attitude you want him to convey, and it kind of showed the way he was comporting himself against Nadal. I mean, he believes that he belongs, and I think we're going to see many more great performances from him. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the next couple of years because I expect him to improve very rapidly.
Plus, and then we pass to another subject. He was also showing a lot of fair play. When there was a bad call from the umpire or the linesman, he was giving straight the point to Rafa Nadal. And
Yeah.
you know, there are not so many players who accept the idea to do that.
You're right. You're right. Although I think, fortunately, it's becoming a little bit more common. Thankfully, I'm glad to see it. We saw it with Djokovic and Karina Busta. Both gave each other some calls today. I
Yeah.
like that when the umpire's about to come down from his chair to check the mark, and they wipe it away to say, "Hey, no, the ball was good," and I
Okay.
like that.
Listen, Steve, we have been talking quite a bit about the match between Nadal and Sinner. We mentioned Schwartzman and Thiem, so we should say something about first Rublev-Tsitsipas, which was the revenge of the final in Hamburg, where Tsitsipas lost after leading 5-3 in the third. And then we will talk about Djokovic and Carreno Busta. What do you think?
This was the reverse
Yeah.
this time today in a way, because in the first set, I thought Rublev was completely outplaying Tsitsipas, and he's up 5-3, and he loses the set 7-5, similar to the way he came back against Tsitsipas, who had him, as you just said, 5-3 in the third in Hamburg. And I think that was crushing for Rublev. I thought he would come back stronger than he did, Ubaldo, but it seemed to really demoralize him. And then Tsitsipas played beautifully the rest of the way. We saw touch, we saw power, we saw really precise serving. He was mixing up his backhand. It was all there. The whole package was there for Tsitsipas, but Rublev, he really declined after that first set. Didn't you think? The last two were 2 and 3, and he looked very unhappy the
Yeah.
rest of the. He played a bad game, Ubaldo, when he served for the first set. Rublev, 4 bad errors. He
Yeah.
kind of gave his serve away, and then Tsitsipas took full advantage of it. You agree?
Yes, sure. And what about Djokovic? Because I think that really, when we talk about Carreno Busta, we don't consider him as much as he deserves, because he's a very good player, and he was not completely wrong when the U.S. Open, when he was asked about the match that he was leading 6-5 and one break up when occurred the accident with the linesman with Djokovic.
Yeah.
Carreno Busta said, I'm not so sure that I would have lost. You know, he's confident. And today, in my opinion, he played really well, and he won the first set. And if he wins the first games of the second, who knows? Because
Well,
Djokovic was quite nervous.
yeah, Djokovic was nervous. A couple of things, Ubaldo. I don't agree with Karina Busta, with all due respect, and I agree with everything you said about him. He's a total professional. He makes you beat him. He's a really first-rate player. But I think Djokovic had been outplaying him in New York. He had 3 set points at 5-4, love 40 in the first set, and that was part of the reason he was so irritated and got upset later, is that he should have wrapped up the set. And he also hurt his shoulder in the next game. So there were lot going on. I think Djokovic, all things being equal, would win. But today's different because it's slow clay, it's heavy balls, it's Paris, it's cold, it's the evening, and the conditions were much more to Karina Busta's favor than New York. And also, Djokovic came out, Ubaldo had the tape on the back of his neck, and he was having a problem with his left arm. In that first set, he looked very distracted to me and very he looked very negative. He looked like he wasn't sure he was going to get through the match. Did you have that feeling initially?
Yeah. And then I had a friend of mine who lives in the Balkans and is a contributor of Ubi Tennis, who understands what he says in Serbian. And
Okay.
he wrote to me a WhatsApp message. You know that the famous WhatsApp
Yeah.
that you don't want to apply for, and 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 he said, "Look, Djokovic is saying this and this. He's saying, how can I lose all these opportunities? I cannot explain why I'm missing all these break points and things like that." So.
Yeah,
Um,
I could see that. You know, I didn't know. I'm glad to hear that's what he was saying. I had that feeling that that's what he meant. That was, of course, in the fourth set when he
yeah.
was trying to close him out. But I thought, Ubaldo, I think it was a very good sign that Djokovic was starting to emote that way. He showed you how much he cared and he wanted it, and he wanted it badly. The first set, you weren't sure about that because he looked like he didn't think his body was going to cooperate. But once he got going, then all that yelling out and talking to himself, I always think that's very good for him because it just spurs him on.
So now that after you said, and I agree with you, that Nadal should win in 4 sets, if not in 3, with Schwartzman. What about Djokovic and Tsitsipas? Can Tsitsipas create problems, real problems to Djokovic, or maybe not?
Well, they've had an interesting 3-2 for Djokovic in their careers. He's done okay against Novak, although Novak beat him in their last meeting pretty comfortably in the finals over in, I guess it was in Dubai, and that was in the final. Good effort. I think if Djokovic is no longer worried about the arm, if he doesn't have issues like he did today, he seemed to get over it. He took the tape on the back of his neck and later in the match got rid of it. Seemed like physically he was okay. If he's physically 100%, I like him to win that match in 4 sets over Tsitsipas as well. I just think, you know, he's the better player, and I think the clay favors him. Do you? I believe that the clay helps him. Sometimes Tsitsipas on a quicker court might be able to beat him on his best days.
Yeah, I do agree. And what I don't know, honestly, is if Rafa Nadal should be able to win his 13th Roland Garros, or if Novak Djokovic will be able to win his 2nd Roland Garros.
Well, let me confess, Ubaldo, we're not supposed to root for any players. I am rooting for the following reason for both Nadal and Djokovic. If we get Nadal and Djokovic in the French Open final, and we've seen them play there, obviously, in the finals so many times, including the finals in 2012 and 14 when Rafa beat Novak, and then an epic semifinal in between in 2013 that Rafa won 9-7 that he beat Novak 9-7 in the 5th. I believe it's such a great historical contest because either Nadal will tie Federer with 20 majors or Djokovic would go up to 18. But either way, it's great for tennis because of history. And I think that not to say that if we had Tsitsipas playing Schwartzman in the final, there's anything wrong with that. It would be a great opportunity for both. But for the sake of history right now, I would like to see Djokovic and Nadal settle it all on Sunday. Do you agree or not?
Yes, I would like it too. Even if I would suspect that the record of 5 hours and 8 minutes could be beaten, because I don't see how, it's almost impossible to make a point to Nadal, and it's almost impossible to make a point to Djokovic. So
So true. That's another reason why it would be so compelling to see it. And there's so much importance for both players and, great incentive. As you said, for Djokovic, he could complete a set of at least winning every major at least twice. And Nadal has not managed to do that, and nor has Federer. And he'd like to have that feather in his cap. And he'd also like to prove that even though he only beaten Rafa once on this court in a quarterfinal, that he can do it when it really counts in the finals with so much history on the line.
Now, you know that I like when I ask questions to try to put in troubles my interlocutor. I mean, the person I'm talking to.
Interrogate. You want to interrogate.
Okay. So in this case, I am going to ask you, do you think that Roger Federer, sitting on his drawing room for watching a final between Djokovic and Nadal, he is a good friend of Nadal, much better friend with Nadal than with Djokovic. But if Nadal wins, there will be 20 slams for Nadal too. If Djokovic will win, there will be 18. So, in your opinion, at home, Mirka, Roger, the twins, who will they support? Who will they cheer for?
I think he's going to be very conflicted. You explained it very well, because he really doesn't, no matter what he says, you have pride in your accomplishments, and he doesn't really want Nadal to tie his record at 20. And you're right that but on the other hand, the other part is just what you said. He's much closer to Nadal. They're better friends. So he'd be happy for Nadal, in a sense, as a friend, since he wasn't in the tournament itself, to see Rafa get a 13th French Open title, so and also a 20th major. So I think he's very torn about that.
So you want to flip a coin, or you're going to give me an answer?
I'm flipping the coin. No, but seriously, do you think you see what I'm saying? I mean, yes.
No, sure, I understood.
Djokovic wins 18. On the other hand, he would be worried that Djokovic, if he got 18, could maybe next year get to 20.
Okay. Listen,
right? Don't you think so? You see what I'm saying? That next year.
No, sure. Yeah. I completely agree, but that's why I asked the questions. I wanted to put you in troubles, and then I will ask when I can Djokovic and say, do you know that Steve Flink was thinking that Federer was supporting Nadal? Or then I will ask to Nadal, do you know that Steve Flink was?
You know what I did? You know what my answer to your question was a lob. I just lobbed.
Yeah,
I didn't do more than lob.
Okay, I will not smash it. Okay. Listen. Thanks a lot. I think we can stop our conversation. We more or less said everything, and I'll try to give you a call again in the next days, maybe on Saturday night, maybe if you are there before the final. So we will see what we think that should happen, presumably between Djokovic and Nadal, but who knows?
Yeah, and then maybe we talk about the women's final as well.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Yeah, perfect.
Sure.
Look forward to it, Ubaldo. That sounds great.
Okay, so I want to thank you again for being a part of this modest show with me, but with you is always a pleasure, my friend, old colleague, and Hall of Famer Steve Flink. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ubaldo. The pleasure was mine.
Okay.